Hey, good morning. So today we're going to be talking about this book by Reggie Joiner and Kristen Ivy. It's called Don't Miss It, and it's for parents, and it's Parent Every Week Like It Counts. So this has some great wisdom in it and also some things to think about. For example, when your child is 3 or 2, sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, will we ever get past this phase? But the truth is you only have 365 days with a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and then they move on, they grow up. And then when they're 8 and they're starting to test, maybe not doing as much of their schoolwork as they're supposed to, or friendship issues come up, or who knows what, and you're like, oh, it's just a phase. Look at that white hair. Okay. Sorry about that. You're like, they're only 52 weeks with an 8-year-old. And then when they're their teenager and you're like, oh my word, will we ever get through this phase? Guys, you only have 12 months with a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old. And so the whole purpose of this book is to look at each phase of your child and each moment with your child, no matter how frustrating or difficult it is, and treasure it and make the most of it. Instead of saying this is just a phase, we'll get past it. Instead, the focus should be this is just a phase, and I don't want to miss it because it'll be gone before you know it. So this book also pairs with an app for your phone called Parent Cue, and it's a P with a C, a blue background. I've sent it out in the Spire before, but Parent Cue, if you look on there, you can add each of your children. It's free. And I don't know, yeah, okay, so here's Dossie. I have 15 weeks until Dossie is, and actually I think before he moves into PC, it's actually a few more weeks than that. 15 weeks, they say, I have left with Dossie in my home to have formative moments with him. And actually it's 8 weeks till his graduation, whether he has a ceremony or not. Anyway, you can put all your kids in there. This screen you can't see as well, but here it shows me Emma, and you can see the little thing that shows how much time you have left. I have 171 weeks with Emma, and then it does the same with Lily. Lily, 275 weeks, and the cool thing is it shows you, it tells you something to read, something to remember. Yeah, it's there, okay. Something to think about. It tells you things that you could do. And so it's a very handy way to kind of track and track the time you have with your children in a positive way, to kind of motivate you to say, wow, you know, this is really going quickly. For example, let me show you this. So with Lily, what did they say? Over 200 and something. I have this many weeks left with Lily. Looks like a lot, right? Some of you are going to need much bigger jars because my kids are older. Lily is almost 13. Okay, I have this many weeks left with Emma. She's a freshman in high school, 15 and a half. And then, guys, before you know it, you're down to, these are my weeks left with Dossie. That's kind of depressing, isn't it? It's also very nerve-wracking because I look at that and think, oh my word, what have I not done that I should have done for Dossie? I need to teach him more about money. I need to really talk to him about what he might experience at college. I need to ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba. And you start to go, I don't have enough time. And so that's the whole point of this book, to help you have enough time. And like, even if you're just starting now with someone who's in, it's never too late to start. It can be scary, and you can try to cram things in. And poor Dossie, if I tried to cram in all this stuff at the age he is now, he's 18, then he might revolt. So this is just kind of fun to think about. So we need to value our time more with our kids. It matters. And I like the way the book says we need to think of it as we're making history for our kids. 1 week at a time. It says don't focus day by day, focus weekly. What's something positive, something precious, important each week that you can really convey to them. Because what we do matters more than we realize. The little moments that we spend with our kids. Like, for example, think about your childhood. What mattered to you? What were the moments that were pivotal, key, the strong memories in your brain? What mattered to you? Does it surprise you? We try to think of these grand things to impart to our kids, or these grand adventures or events. And really, it's just the smallest things sometimes. For example, I remember my in the Caribbean, my parents in the Caribbean they didn't celebrate Halloween, and so my parents would go all out just to decorate the house for Halloween, just for us, just for one night. And we would mom would didn't have pizza there, and so she would make dough and do her best to concoct the sauce and make homemade pizza for us, and we'd have soft drinks, which we did not have every day, and then some dessert. And so that was a special memory because that's something they did just for us, just that one day a year. And so that's a special memory for me. And there are others. For example, one Christmas, my dad built built things out of wood for our Christmas in the Caribbean. We didn't have a lot of money then, and the stores didn't have a lot of stuff either. And I was a Barbie girl. I still love Barbies. And he took wood and he built three-sided boxes and put it under the tree, and that was my Santa. And I remember coming out and looking at him going, what are these? And he thought, well, I didn't know how to do a Barbie house like you'd want it, so I decided these could be rooms. There were several of them, and you could shift them around and move them the way you wanted your house to be. And I loved that. I had the best time with those things. I could decorate it and move it and shift it and design it the way I wanted. And that's a huge memory for me. And if you think about those things, then you think about your own kids. You're like, oh my word, what are they gonna think of? What are they gonna remember? Um, and I thought about one time, how do I want my kids to remember living at home with us? And I was like, ooh, I want them to think of coming home from school and smelling cookies in the oven. That happened one day. One day I was able to do that. But there are lots of other things that we can do to foster a great childhood and build a foundation for our kids. So this book is very helpful for that. So one of our jobs is the kids see now. They see right now. Right now, I want watermelon. Right now, I'm going to play in the backyard. Right now, I'm teasing the dog. Our job is to kind of help them connect and see the past, present, and future all together, to see what they do now affects what happens later, or what they did in the past, how they can learn from it. So that's part of our job. And to think about moments like bedtime. When my kids were little, we had a great bedtime routine. Now they're teenagers, and I go to bed before they do. So I always make sure to tell them good night and love on them. But that has changed, and I hope they remember me lying in the bed reading to them. And I hope they remember us going to church together, and I hope they remember songs that I love to sing to them, or songs that we would sing together. I have a friend, and each of her children, she gave them a special hymn that was just for them. And I love that. I wish I had thought of that. I don't know how I would have chosen them because I love so many, but moments fishing, moments playing sports, moments being musical together, moments reading together, all these things are so important. But it makes me think of, we don't want to just be so focused and scared and worried that we're like, I got to cram it all in. I got to cram it all in. I have to do everything perfectly. And that's not true. I like to think of, how do you eat an elephant? Hopefully you don't eat one at all, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Just think of little things, little moments. That's what builds over time and makes history. It's the little stories, the little snippets. So don't get too crazy about this. Think of it in terms of investing in your kids with little small deposits that are consistent. How do you save money? A little bit at a time. That's what we do with our kids. We don't want to bombard them, but we do want to build them up gradually, and we have time to do that. Fortunately, and that's what this book wants us to realize. We've got time, plenty of time, but we need to make the most of it. So we're laying the foundation, and I love this. There's no rewind button. Man, I wish there were some rewind buttons, because there are several things I'd like to rewind, both from my childhood and from my parenting. But we can pause. We can press the pause button when we realize we're in one of these moments. We can pause and we can like relish it and celebrate it, and kind of call attention to it to our kids, and make the most of it. So here's a question. How would your kids grade you um, on how well you know them? Have you ever done one of those quizzes and it says, what's their favorite song? What's their favorite color? What's their favorite food? Guys, I fail at that miserably every time. I think I know their favorite thing. I know what they like, but if we do the quiz, I don't get it right, and it drives me crazy. I want to know, but I haven't taken the time for whatever phase they're in right now to be interested enough to ask, or to pay attention enough to tell. And so that's also what this book is saying. It's saying, slow down and take enough time to be interested in your kid, what their likes are, what their needs are. One big thing that has helped me is knowing their love language, and I love the love languages. I believe in that train of thought, and so for Emma in particular, because Dossie and Lily, words of assurance, quality time, those things, that's my love language, that's their love language, so we do well. But with Emma, hers is acts of service. And so as much as I want to love on her and tell her how much I love her, that really doesn't do it for her. Instead, if I take her cereal bowl after breakfast in the morning, normally the kids are supposed to take their own. If I offer to take it for her, she lights up. If she's at school and forgot to make her bed and I go in there and I make the bed for her, she comes home and she just kind of melts a little bit. And so knowing those love languages is really helpful as well, because then you're speaking their language that matters to them. And so in closing, this is only half the book, by the way, so maybe we'll get to the other half another day. But in closing is the profound truth. Even when our kids are driving us crazy, the profound truth about our kids is that they are children of God. And that's amazing. And when they're little tiny babies, we look at them that way. Holy cow, this is a child of God. I am in amazement that I grew this, or whatever. And so that's what we need to realize. So even when they're driving us crazy, if they're in the phase of why, or if they're in the phase of you do it, I don't want to, or if they're in the phase of not talking to you at all because they're in their room listening to music, just remember that they're a child of God and that we get to invest in them to help them be amazing adults and independent, responsible adults. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's in the church if you want to read the whole thing for yourself. This was just a nutshell of the first half, and I hope y'all have a great day. Invest. Cherish every moment.